Welcome to week 79 of Cougars on Cougars. This is Jess. I'm Mary, and we're coming at you with a game to look back at and a game to look forward to, and it feels great.
Want to know.
It's
a good way to start.
Yes, it sure is. Should we start with our notable quotable?
Yes. This comes from Malcolm Gladwell, and it was shared on Nick Emery's Instagram story, so thank you, Nick Emery. Courage is not something that you already have that makes you brave when the tough times start. Courage is what you earn when you've been through the tough times and you discover they aren't so tough after all.
I like it. I mean, it's about the power of the mind, and we thought it was really applicable. Obviously, it's applicable to something Nick's going through, which is great. And then it also is applicable, I thought, to the LSU game. You might need a drop of courage to especially go into Louisiana and play them. And we are obviously thinking about the people of Houston this week. Definitely. So courage all around.
All right. So we had a game on Saturday. Yes. Against Portland State, and that means that we are finally bringing back coaching from the couch. It's nice to have this segment back because it means we actually have games to talk about.
Nice. I'm so excited to put our coaching caps back on.
Yes.
So the final score was 20-6, right?
Yes.
Maybe a little less than impressive.
Yeah, I think everyone was expecting a little higher score,
a
little more
Dave
out of the
McCann
offense.
predicted like 59 to something.
Oh boy.
Which, even when he predicted that, I was like, easy.
Slow your roll.
I kind of thought we would score like 30 or more. I mean, or I thought we would score around 30.
I think it's hard with the offseason because everyone hypes everything up so much. And you're like, oh, we're going to be so good. We're playing a team like Portland State. We're just going to steamroll them.
Yeah.
And it's never usually that easy.
No, and I think there are a lot of factors to consider when you think back on the Portland State game, and we will definitely get into them in our what went right and what went wrong. And even before that, we did want to make sure we mentioned the Heat. Speaking of factors on this game, because I just keep asking myself, how could the Heat not have been a factor?
Oh, it cannot be overstated how hot it was. It was so hot. Jerem said that he heard reports of it feeling like 108 degrees on the field and as many as 26 people with heat stroke related issues in the first half.
And I bet
People
that's a low estimate.
Yeah, I mean, sitting in the stands just felt like you're melting.
I couldn't even focus on the game.
Yeah, so that has to be a factor in the game itself.
Yeah. I mean, they have the swamp coolers for them, but, when it's that hot and you're just in direct sunlight, how are you drinking enough water, and how are you, in pads?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely got to affect your energy levels.
I really liked this, too. It's a quote from Kalani that came from his post-game address, and this is from Brandon O'Berry, who tweeted it. He said, Kalani, and he quoted him, "Never complain about a win." And Brandon said, that sounds like a good plan to him. It sounds like a good plan to us as well.
That doesn't mean we won't have things that went wrong.
Yeah, I know.
We're still going to be coaching from the couch. But yeah, we are never going to complain about a win, ever.
Should we get into what went wrong?
Yes. Coach Blanchard, what went wrong for you?
Okay. I think that this is a widely accepted one and one that's been talked about a lot. How about all of those ticky-tacky penalties we got?
Yeah, it's never a good time for a penalty, but I feel like especially that game you had some penalties on big plays.
That just put them in situations where we really didn't want them. Both teams were 7 for 70 for penalties, which is not great. And like you said, it was just when you think back on the game, the defense allowing only 6 points is great. And when you think back on the game, you're like, oh, the defense played really well. But then if you watch the game, they sure were in our territory a lot of the time. And you know why that happened? Because of penalties. But, so it happened on defense, but also the ones that really bugged me were the ones on the offensive line. So you had several chop blocks, I think at least 3. You had some holding calls on the offense. There was the one 44, 50-yard run by Kavika Fanua that got called back because of holding.
And a touchdown run that got called back.
Mm-hmm. And then there were some false starts, which those are just, you need to clean it up. There's not any excuse for those penalties. I hope to see 0 chop blocks at least on Saturday. Yeah, what about you, Coach Tyler?
For me, what went wrong has to do with the offense, and I saw this stat from Gregor Bell that kind of put into words what mine was. So this is a tweet after the game. He said the average third down distance to go was 8.8 yards.
That's not very many third and shorts.
No, I think that's a problem. If that's your average,
yeah,
is 8.8 yards to go. That makes it really hard when you're in those third down situations.
3 or 4 would be a lot more acceptable and pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, and this is in his same stack. So there were 4 third down conversions. They were all through the air, and none of them on the ground.
Let's move on to happier things with what went right. So for me, I kind of already mentioned that the defense played really great. I'm really happy with them holding Portland State to 6 points. I didn't expect it to be a shutout. We had a lot of rotation going on in the defense, a lot of guys seeing some of their first playing time or playing time after missions, etc., etc. Or not missions, other circumstances, because one of the people I wanted to talk about was Sione Takitaki. How can we not talk about Sione?
He was everywhere. I feel like you heard his name after every other play.
Yeah, he was, and that's exactly where you want him to be, and he is living up to his talk, talking about how good they were going to be at the pass rush, and he especially, I think he had 7 tackles, and I'm pretty sure he had 2 sacks, and then I also, of course, had to give a shout-out to my favorite, Fred, fundamentally sound, 10 tackles, a few of those were for loss. I think Fred and Sione just set a really, really great tone for the defense. Okay, what about you, Coach Tyler?
Okay, mine's pretty simple. It's just that there were no turnovers, which I feel
like
important. Yeah, I do think we were maybe playing a little bit conservative. I did feel like maybe Tanner was holding back and wasn't as assertive as he needs to be going forward.
I hope he was.
He did have that one fumble that he lost, but we were able to recover it, thank goodness. So anytime you can have a game with no turnovers, obviously it's going to help your chances to win. So I was pretty happy with that, and I hope we can keep that up. Next week will be definitely a huge, huge test.
It will be a huge test. So one more thing I did want to address, though, talk about, it kind of ties into your what went right. How much of the playbook were we concealing? Of course, when you ask Coach Detmer, he's saying that, that's the whole playbook. We're not holding back anything from film, blah, 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 blah. But do you buy it? Are you buying it?
No, I don't buy it. Of course he's going to say that.
Right.
I hope that wasn't our whole playbook.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, if that was our whole playbook, I think we're going to be in trouble. But no, I definitely am expecting some more variety this next game.
Yeah. And if we weren't trying to hide stuff from LSU, then that's kind of a dumb move. Why would we show them all our cards?
Yeah. Yeah, so I definitely don't think that's the whole playbook. I do think Portland State, I thought they did pretty well. I was
did want to talk about this.
Yeah, with the level of some of their players. Their freshman quarterback, we were a little worried about.
That we talked about.
Great.
And that running back who we didn't talk about. I think his name was Zaquan. Awesome name. But we need to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, for sure. I thought their corners were really good, too.
Their corners were on lockdown. So, yes, our receivers did have a somewhat difficult time getting open. But part of that was on them. Part of that should be credited to their defensive backs. Yeah. Time to bring back one of our very favorite segments that we do. I don't think we've ever done it and, haven't walked away with our mouth watering.
Every time.
So, we are filming the show. It's coming out a day later than usual because of all of the confusion surrounding the location. And like we mentioned, our thoughts and prayers are with Houston. But as I'm sure you all know now, the game has been moved to the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Right.
So, we originally were going to have a guest on to do Houston. That was our plan. But that fell through. But he had been to New Orleans a few times, so he was going to do that. Anyway, last minute, it fell through. But luckily...
We're all scrambling this week. It's fine.
Yes, seriously. But Jess recently went to New Orleans, so it worked out perfectly. So Jess is going to share 3 things to do and 3 places to eat in New Orleans, and then we do have just some other recommendations that we scrounged up from fellow Big Easy lovers.
There you go.
I've never been, so I'm excited to hear about all this. What do we got? What are good things for BYU fans in town to do?
All right, so the first thing that I think everyone mentions, it's been in New Orleans, that you have to do is go to Preservation Hall. And Preservation Hall, if you don't know, is a jazz club. So they have shows every night around 6, 8, and 9, and then 10 p.m.
So basically every hour in the evening.
Pretty much. And all you do is you have to get in line outside, I'd say about 30 minutes before, and then they just let you in, and you go inside and listen to some jazz for a while.
Isn't New Orleans the city of jazz? Isn't that its thing? So yeah, that might be a good thing to do. Listen to some jazz.
Yep, so definitely recommend that. And then as part of that, before or after, explore the French Quarter. That was probably my favorite thing that I did while I was there. There's a lot of really fun streets to walk up and down, a lot of cool shops, restaurants, candy.
Just the architecture.
Yeah, the architecture too. The feel, I mean, a lot of it is in French, obviously. French found in Louisiana. So
Yeah.
I'd say St. Charles Street is fun because you've got the trolleys going up and down.
Cute.
Royal Street, Canal Street, St. Magazine Street.
You didn't
Bourbon
necessarily...
Street,
Yeah, tell us
obviously.
about your experience on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I mean, so the whole French Quarter is pretty nice, and you get to Bourbon Street, and it's maybe not as nice. It's kind of like a mini Vegas, but maybe worse.
Yikes.
I don't know. I think if you're LDS and going down there, you may want to just walk up and down, but you may want to avoid it. It's a lot of...
Maybe do the other streets that you
Yeah,
recommended.
it's a lot of clubs, drinking, smoking.
I feel
that
like
kind of
Bourbon
stuff.
Street is just like kind of over commercialized at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely a street where you're going down there to have a good time and do the drinking and the smoking and
So
stuff.
not
so
our
if you're
super
not planning
target
to do that,
demographic.
yeah, maybe avoid it. It wasn't the cleanest place either. I mean, I kind of walked around it, so
Okay, so you said St. Charles Street, Royal Street, Canal Street, Magazine Street would be good options.
those are my favorites.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, do that and then catch a jazz show. That sounds fun.
Yeah, for sure. And like try the food around there too, and check out the shops. There's a
Oh,
lot
we
of
will
antique
get to the
shops
food.
and everything. Yeah.
Antique
So-
shops, though, I bet they have some gems.
Oh yeah, lots of really old cool stuff.
Okay, so this third one I've also seen recommended a lot.
Yep. So in New Orleans is the National World War II Museum. It's a big museum. It's one of the best in the country. So definitely worth a visit if you have time. Go check that out. Before or after the game, whenever.
We've heard it's like second only to like Smithsonian's, that it's at that level and really good and really worth your time to check out.
Yeah,
And that's a
incredible
great thing to do
exhibits.
with the family, of course.
Definitely. And then kind of an honorable mention one, if you have time, Whitney Plantation is really beautiful and really cool. It is about an hour outside of New Orleans, so you'd have to plan for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're there for a couple days or
Maybe
whatever.
the weather will be a little better or worse there. I'm not sure. You'd have to look into it. It's in Edgar, Louisiana, I think. But they've got a little bit about the history of enslaved people. It sounds really, really, really interesting. It sounds like you've got some rich history between the Jazz, the World War II Museum, the plantations. Like,
For sure.
plenty.
A lot of history in that city. Places
Food?
to eat. This is
Yay!
the best reason to go to New Orleans, I think, because the food really is incredible.
the highlight, maybe.
The one thing you probably always hear about New Orleans is the po' boy
yeah.
sandwich. And
Can we talk about po' boys for a second? Can we? Because
Sure.
I wasn't really sure what they were because I'm deprived and I've never been to New Orleans.
It's basically just a sandwich, kind of like a
But-
French bread.
On steroids?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty big usually. And then it's just got meat on it, so it could be seafood meat, your
Right.
crawfish or whatever. Shrimp.
And there's usually like
Turkey,
sauce
roast beef.
involved here, right?
Yeah, usually more with like the turkey and roast beef, you've got like a gravy basically on it. But yeah, big, filling, really good.
So it's like a sandwich done right, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna try one, do it in New Orleans for sure. So, few recommendations. I tried mine at Mother's, and I thought it was great. It was close to my hotel when I was there,
What
so that's why I
kind
went
did
to
you
that
get?
one.
Do you remember? Tell me
I
everything.
think I got one
you
that
know.
was turkey and roast beef.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not a huge seafood lover, so I'm sure those are great too. I just wasn't gonna go there.
What like and the
So-
sauce you said? So the sauce on yours was more like gravy like.
Yeah.
And the bread was just what, like soft and like French
Yeah.
bread? You said.
Yeah,
Okay.
big, soft,
Cool. Okay.
delicious French
So
bread.
Mother's and Mother's is that near downtown or they probably
Yeah.
have several locations.
Yeah, it's not far from St. Charles Street.
Okay.
So, we also heard Parkway is good, and then Johnny's.
Shout out to Jake Welch for Parkway. He said that I think that was his favorite one. And then Johnny's was recommended to us by Laura Trineman. So we just gave you 3 places where you could try po' boys. We definitely encourage trying all 3 places and
Sure.
reporting back
Why
to us
not?
with the results.
Compare.
Okay, so those 3 recommendations were our first
they're
recommendation.
all
So
grouped
what's
together.
next?
Number 2 has to be Café du Monde.
Yeah.
That one, it's beignets, which are delicious and amazing. Café du Monde is pretty big, and you can either sit down outside or inside, or they also have like a walk-up window. You can walk up and take it away.
Go.
Yeah, I went there for breakfast and just got a bag of them and got some hot chocolate and ate it. And
Was the hot chocolate good?
yeah, hot chocolate was good too.
There's probably a lot of other beignets. I bet you a lot of the other restaurants that we mentioned serves them. But you know what? Just go for the full experience. Those are the famous beignets. And you say they're as good as promised.
I think so, yes.
Better?
I mean, I don't want to overpromise people, but yeah,
but really
good.
Okay.
Definitely try it. It's like one of those things you have to do if you're in New Orleans.
What's our third one?
The last one is Commander's Palace, and this is a pretty big restaurant down there that's just Creole food.
Ooh.
So pretty authentic, Southern. It is going to be more pricey, so you're going to pay like
$50 a plate.
Yeah, probably like 30 to 50 depending on what you're getting.
So this is if you want to do a nicer dinner.
Yeah, and you want like the authentic experience down there. I would definitely recommend Commander's.
So like you're talking like lobster, crawfish, like
all that kind of stuff.
Jambalaya.
Yum! All of it.
It all sounds so good. Okay, so that's Commander's Palace. And is that also downtown?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so those are our main ones. We did want to throw out a few out there. Laura Truman did send us a bunch. She says it's one of her favorite cities. That's where they adopted one of their 9 kids. So she recommended a Taco Loco truck. So you've got to find them on Twitter and track them down, but they're just around the city.
And Taco Loco, like the French spelling.
Like Go Tigers, that kind of, yeah. Except not Go Tigers. Anyway, the second one was Antoine's.
Which I think is similar to Commander's Palace. A little more pricey, but you'll get some really good.
Yeah, and I think they said that one's like world famous. Like, you know, all your celebrities have been there. The next one she recommended was Domenica, which is a mashup between Italian cuisine. The chef is like from Italy, lived in Italy for several years, but mashed up with Louisiana like Cajun food. So it sounds really, really intriguing.
I could see that going really well together though.
Yeah, if it's
just
done right.
Pasta. So can't go wrong with that, I think.
So there's that. And then we got some more from Jake. What did he...
Yeah, so Jake Welch, shout out to Jake, gave us a few too. He said Willie Mae's Scotch House had the best fried chicken he's had.
And we quote, in years.
Yep. Willa Jean, Peche Seafood, Compere Lapin, and Turkey and the Wolf, and then also Cochon. So
he recommended all of those very highly. So
we'll list those in our article.
And you know what? There you go. You just got more bang for your buck, probably because we've just missed this segment so much and want to talk about food. But
if any of you go to these places, please take pictures.
Yeah, we loved that last year, seeing all your really So and doing the activities too. So just tweet us, and we can't wait to see. So it sounds like a lot of the fans are still gonna make the trip, so enjoy it.
Yeah, and we like to live vicariously through you that travel and get to go to these things. So please share. Be generous with your pictures.
Yes.
Talk the Town this week, we are going to start with the depth chart. And there's been a couple of changes. First is that Austin Kavensis makes the chart this time at halfback. He wasn't on there before.
And he was a quarterback. He was kind of everywhere, so I guess his latest is halfback.
There we go. Kavika Fanua and Ula Tulatau switched spots at blocking back.
So we talked about last week how Ula was first, and Kavika was, I think he was at tailback.
Yeah, could be. I don't remember.
But is this surprising after how Kavika Fanua played?
No, I thought he looked really good on Saturday. I was very impressed.
I think he's our biggest back. We were talking about how we thought it was Ula. To be fair, Ula didn't have too much opportunity, but Kavika honestly made the most of his limited opportunity. That long run he had was so nice. Yeah, and he's a former linebacker, right? It's what I'm hearing. Mo Longy is on the Piesman watch list to nobody's surprise.
You cannot ignore it.
It would have been a straight up travesty if he wouldn't have been. So
he could be like the poster child.
Get Mo the ball so he can get a touchdown so he can win the Piesman. I don't think you have to get a touchdown, right? But it always helps.
No, I think it just has to be a good play. So.
And we did mention him carrying the flag, which was just amazing.
Epic.
Never seen the American flag look so small.
True.
This was the best.
We had to share this from Rory Bellows. Posted this. He says, "So perfectly BYU." And this is Tanner Mingham's player profile.
On ESPN, mind you.
Mission in Chile, 2013 to June 2015. Eagle Scout. High school cello player and choir singer.
Because that came out, we also learned that the quarterback for LSU, Danny Etling, is also an Eagle Scout. So keep in mind Saturday that you will be watching 2 Eagle Scouts go at it. Good for them. Wonder how many merit badges they have between the 2 of them.
So Darren Ravel tweeted out, 32, number of players on BYU's 2017 football team that are married.
I thought that was an interesting statistic.
I don't know if that's
less
higher
than half. It's less than half.
I wish we could compare that to past years.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably average.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor and don't read the responses to this tweet.
Okay.
A lot of people tried to say it was the average age of our teammates, but I just thought it was interesting. This tweet was from Aaron Gordon, and he said, "Great seeing former teammates yesterday." And this is quite the picture. It really is some of our favorite alumni here. Dennis Pitta, David Nixon, Ben Criddle, Aaron Gordon, and Austin Collie. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Those are some guys that helped us out a little.
Nice shades.
You had to
They're
survive.
all still cool.
Yeah, it was really funny. I will share really quick that when we were going into the stadium, we saw Dennis Pitta also going into the stadium, and he was entering the tent for the former players. And first of all, they wouldn't let him into the tent. He had to talk to them for a while before they let him into the tent. We got into the stadium and we're like, "Oh, is Dennis Pitta out of the tent yet?" And he wasn't. He was stuck at the end talking to another lady, on the phone with someone who was like, "Come get me." And it was me and Randy and Jordan, and we were like, "Just show him your Super Bowl ring."
I know, you're like, "Let him in, it's Dennis Pitta."
We were about to go over there and be like, "We can vouch for this individual."
This is embarrassing right now.
I know, it was embarrassing.
Let him in.
So anyway, he got in and he got on the field. So speaking of alumni.
Tangent, yeah. Jordan Leslie, we haven't heard his name for a while. He's playing for the Browns, and he hauled in 4 catches for 34 yards in their game over the weekend.
Most importantly,
including a winning 5-yard touchdown with 1:53 left. So
how fun.
And it was only 13-9 win, so thank goodness for that touchdown. Good job, Jordan.
Yeah, and so we don't have updates on all of them this week. We've been doing a ton of those, but we did want to make sure to note that he got the game-winning touchdown.
There you go.
Okay, so that's some good news. This is some bad news. The Packers waived 3 of their players, and one of them was Colby Pearson. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a bummer, but at the same time, when you're injured a little bit, you don't get to show your stuff in those games. You've got to keep your roster, tight, down to 53. So that is a bummer, and we hope that Colby lands somewhere else, but I was really happy to not see Taysom's name on there.
Yeah, now there's 2 BYU Packers instead of 3.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that. This was interesting. So College Hoops magazines are already being put out. We're about a month away from the start of basketball camp, by the way.
Yay!
And TJ House is on the cover of the Lindy Sports College Basketball magazine.
So awesome to see him on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that he's getting that recognition.
And that's our one bit of basketball news. But shout out to TJ. And then our last thing, we wanted to make sure to give a shout out to Logan Daniels, who said that he's repping the Y, and he's got his Army uniform on, and he's got a really awesome American flag Sailor Coug patch that I would enjoy.
Yeah, that looks amazing. So
yeah, so that is what we've got for Talk of the Town. What's next? Do we have a game this week, or?
We do have a game this week. We thought we might not.
It was touch and go.
Sketchy. Although we'll keep an eye on the weather. Hopefully we still have a game.
Yeah, it's not for sure. That's for sure.
But yeah, BYU LSU this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Mountain on ESPN. If you're going, we're Royal.
And the other thing I wanted to mention during couch coaching, which I didn't, is that BYU tends to play to the level of their opponent. So there might have been a little bit of that going on for Portland State, but you got to hope the same will be true for LSU. So my 2 hopes are that we keep it a game and that we stay healthy.
Keep it close. No injuries.
And that's a win.
Please.
As for our sponsors this week, our first sponsor has got to be Cookie Monster or Ed Orgeron. You can decide. We just wanted to congratulate Boney on a job very, very well done on this hilarious video that is making the rounds on the interwebs.
And our second sponsor, Miss Utah, for her amazing arrangement of the national anthem at the game. Though I don't think I've ever been to a game where a violin was
the national anthem.
Yeah.
It
was amazing. It sounded really good too.
May you always stay loyal to the white and blue. For Jess, I'm Mary. We'll see you next week.
Go Cougs.